Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. I generally like to talk a lot of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we'll be talking about a game that tries to replicate the frenetic nature of first-person video game shooters. We're going to be talking about Adrenaline, and in this game you will be running around a map, picking up weapons, collecting power-ups that will allow you to blast your opponents into oblivion, that will allow you to win the game. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. I'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like. Then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Adrenaline is worth your time and bother 5 years after it was first released in 2016. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. Bollocks! So, Adrenaline, how'd you play this game? So in Adrenaline you'll be taking control of one of 5 characters. If you've got the DLC expansion, you'll be taking control of maybe a 6th character. And what you'll do, you'll take the player board, you'll take the little tiny add-on thing, and you'll put it next to each other, so you'll squeeze them together. You'll take all your damage tokens, you put them to one side, and the first thing you're going to do when it's your turn, it's your initial turn, you will draw 2 power-up cards. You'll look at one of them to keep, and you'll discard the other one. The one you discard, you look at the little cube on the bottom of the card. That refers to the colour of the spawn point that you will appear on. So on your turn, you'll get to take 2 actions. If you haven't taken any damage, there'll be a choice of 3 actions. You can move 3 spaces. You can't move through walls, but you can move through other players, and you can move through doors. You can move 1 space, and then you can grab stuff. You can grab an ammo tile if there's one in the space that you stopped on, or if you stop on one of the spawn spaces, you'll be able to take one of the weapons cards. Right, when you take a weapons card, you'll only pay the cube that's at the bottom of the icons in the top corner, and then you'll put the weapons card into your hand, and this card is automatically loaded. So you might pick up the Electrosive, and this allows you to deal 1 damage to every player on your square. And on all these weapons there are extra modes that you can use if you pay the cubes that are listed. So if you take the Electrosive Reaper mode, you'll get to deal 2 damage to every other player in your square. Or you might have the Flamethrower in the basic mode. You'll choose 1 or 2 squares away in the same direction, and you'll deal 1 damage to 1 target in each square. And if you take the Barbecue mode, it's as above, but you deal 2 damage to everyone in the first square and everyone in the second square. Or you might have the Railgun, in which case you'll deal 3 damage to 1 target in a cardinal direction. I'm not talking about priests in the Catholic Church, if you know what I'm saying. Or if you've got the Piercing mode, sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? You'll deal 2 damage each to 1 or 2 targets in the same cardinal direction. So these weapons are quite powerful. There's quite a few weapons in the game, but you can only have a maximum of 3 weapons. If you want to get a new weapon, you have to discard a weapon that you hold in your hand to one of the spaces on the spawn point, right? So the third action you can take is you can shoot someone. Basically, you've got to have them in a sort of line of sight. Basically, if you're in the same room as them, you can shoot them from any space. And if you are in a door space, you can sort of peek around through the door and into the other room, and you can shoot somebody that way. You'll play a weapon card from your hand, you'll put it face down in front of you, and all weapons automatically hit opponents that you can see. Got it? So if you hit somebody with a weapon, you'll give them some damage tokens. There's also things called marks, and these are basically deferred bits of damage. You'll stick them on the top of your board in the relevant space, and if you hit them in your next turn, then you'll add any marks that you've given to a player on a previous turn. Right, so once a player absorbs enough damage to take them up to the skull icon, then after the current players finish their turn, then you will do a bit of scoring. The player who hit that person first will get 1 point, and then you'll look at the little hexagons on the board, and you'll get 8 points for the player who dealt the most damage. Then the second player will get 6, and so on and so forth. You'll take the skull from the skull track and you'll place it on the highest numbered hexagon, and then you'll take the damage marker and you'll put it on the skull space. Right, nice little bit of swapsies. So you'll also notice that as you take more damage, then you'll get better abilities. You'll be able to maybe move 2 spaces and then grab, or you'll be able to move 1 space and shoot. So the more damage you take, the more agile and more powerful sort of you become, you know what I mean? So you'll keep doing this until all the skulls have been removed. There are some rules for something called Final Frenzy, where all the players who haven't got any damage will then flip their boards over, and it'll give you some sort of extra bonuses and stuff like that. But we're not going to get into that because it is kind of boring. And then you'll do a bit of final scoring where basically it's a majority of who got the most damage on the skull track will get 8 points, second will get 6 points, and blah, 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 blah. And once you've gone through all that, the player with the most points will be the winner of Adrenaline. So what do we like about Adrenaline? So the first thing that we really like about Adrenaline is just mindless fun, going around beating the crap out of your friends and maybe even your parents. The fact that all of the hits hit automatically means that there's not going to be any sort of random die rolls or anyone cursing their luck. But then again, there's not that much strategy in it either, right? Second thing that we like about Adrenaline is that the rewards diminish the more times you get hit, so you don't become a bit of a trophy. It also prevents you from going after the same person, because the more crap they are, the less attractive they become. A bit like in real life, isn't it? So the next thing that we really like about Adrenaline is the way that the points are distributed in quite a varied manner. You're not just going to get points for having the majority of damage on a player's board. You're going to get points for being the first person to smack somebody in the head, and you're also going to get points maybe for dealing the killing blow. So there is that opportunity to basically steal someone's kill, and depending on how many times you do that, you're going to get extra points at the end of the game. So it's not just a case of killing the players, there's a wealth of opportunities to gather those points. So what don't we like about Adrenaline? So the first thing that we don't like about Adrenaline is that some of the weapons and power-ups are a little bit unbalanced and maybe overpowered. So if you look at, say, like the Whisper, for instance, if you've got that, it's going to deal 3 damage plus 1 mark to a target that you can see that's at least 2 meters away. And if you contrast that to maybe something like the ZH2, you're going to deal 1 damage and 2 marks to 1 target that you can see, right? So if you've got the Whisper, then you are going to be infinitely more powerful than somebody who's maybe trying to knock you out with a rubber dildo. Second thing we don't like about this game is that there's no difference between the characters. They're just basically a plastic figure. It would have been nice had there been maybe special abilities that are unique to each character, but there ain't none in there. So it's just basically aesthetics, isn't it? I mean, what it should have done is added something that's like in the Power Up expansion for King of Tokyo. Maybe that's going to come in an expansion at some point, but it's not in the core set, and that is very, very disappointing. So the final thing that we don't like about Adrenaline is it's too bloody long if you're playing with 4 players. The game recommends that your first game is going to be 5 skulls. Fine, that's not too bad. It takes about an hour with 3 players to get through that. But if you're playing with 4 or 5 players and you're going for the full game with the 8 skulls, you are going to be sitting there hanging on, waiting for your turn to come round. It's going to drive you up the wall. So yeah, it's just that little bit too long, and there's not that much depth that can cover the length of this game, you know what I mean? So to summarise, is Adrenaline still worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we are going to say maybe, maybe not. It all depends how desperate you are to try and capture the feel of a first-person shooter on your tabletop. It's a decent enough run and gun game that doesn't quite emulate the frenetic nature of these first-person shooters. It's slightly too long in its execution. It's probably best played as an antidote to these long, meandering, cerebral Euros that we sort of love so much, you know what I mean? I think this game could best be summed up by the phrase chewing gum for the brain, because there's not really that much strategy. It still is quite a blast. And yeah, we do really quite enjoy it. So there you go, that's Adrenaline. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you next Tuesday.